Johnny Murr here, and welcome to a brand new video. Today, we are finally going to be talking about the long-awaited, long-rumored, long-leaked Nintendo Switch 2. That is right, it is officially announced. The Nintendo Switch 2, not the Super Nintendo Switch, not the whatever other name anybody else wanted. Personally, I wanted Super Nintendo Switch because I think that just fits Nintendo's naming. But it is official, the Nintendo Switch 2. We've been waiting for this for a long time. There's been so many leaks over so many years. There's been so many rumors over so many years. But Nintendo themselves put out the first look teaser trailer for the Switch 2, showing off the hardware. We got a little tease of a new Mario Kart game, and they gave us some information that a lot of us have been wanting to hear. And we're going to talk all about that in this video. But more specifically, this is the video I've been wanting to make for a long time. And I wanted to make this video ever since, like, I would say 2 years ago. I was on a podcast with Mob Axu, and I brought up, I kind of just had this like revelation in my head of the Nintendo Switch and why the sequel can be so good, and why I think, and what this video is for, is explaining why I do think the Switch 2 will be the greatest console of all time. We're going to talk about that. But if you guys love video games, doesn't matter what you love, Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, third party, indie, VR, whatever it may be, consider subscribing, sharing with your friends. We cover video games daily on this channel, and I appreciate all the support you guys give me, especially on this video right here. But let's get started talking or explaining why the Nintendo Switch 2 will be the greatest console of all time. Now, let's just go ahead and break down the little teaser trailer real quick. So first of all, obviously they showed off the new console. It does have that kind of like charcoal gray blackish look to it, and it does have the red and blue trim on it. Now the red and blue is a little more pastel-y rather than neon, which I personally really like. It's just a more natural color. It's just something I think looks really nice. I think the console itself looks really nice. We are getting a bigger screen with the console itself. We are getting another USB port, and they have stated that this thing will just be built and prepped with higher quality materials, as well as they are upping the size of the Joy-Cons as well. They also showed off that we're going to be able to use the Joy-Cons as mouses, which is really interesting. I don't know what we're going to use that for, but I mean, I'm assuming we're going to find out sooner rather than later. Something else we did see is that they're redoing the little back kickstand that the console itself has, which I think is really good. The kickstand has always kind of just been a whatever piece for Nintendo Switch specifically. But then also in this trailer, we did get glimpses of a new Mario Kart game. Now, this has been highly rumored. We haven't gotten a new Mario Kart game since Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is not a new game on the Switch. That was a port with extra content for the Switch from the Wii U. We have not gotten a Mario Kart for a while, and honestly, there really hasn't been a need to, because Mario Kart 8 is still selling like hotcakes. And if I was Nintendo, why would I want to stop that? Yeah, it's a great question. But we're finally getting a new Mario Kart with the new Switch, and we kind of expected this because that is going to be a system seller, and I do believe this will now be one of their big launch lineup games, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. We also might have a whole separate video talking about what the potential first year for the Nintendo Switch could look like, because it's some exciting stuff, man. This is so exciting. This is one of the greatest periods of times, like gamers, no matter what brand you love. This is one of the greatest periods of time that you can have, when a new console's announced, leading up to that, making all the predictions, getting on the hype train, and we're here for Nintendo. I'm so excited. But yeah, so at the end of the trailer, they did confirm that we will be able to play Switch 1 games as well as Switch 2 games, obviously. So they did confirm backwards compatibility. Now, for me, this was the biggest thing, is you have to have backwards compatibility. And we're going to talk about exactly why and what that means a little bit later in this video. And then that's pretty much the whole teaser trailer. I mean, there was like a few other things. There's like another button on the right Joy-Con that everybody's kind of wondering what that is about. I do believe that there was something else at the end. Oh, yes, they did confirm the date for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, meaning the show that's probably going to be like 40 minutes to an hour long, where they're going to show fully the new console, all of its capabilities, as well as reveal a ton of games for the new console. And that is the day, April 2nd, is the day that all of us are going to be counting down to, because that is going to be a wonderful, wonderful day. But let's get talking about why I think the Switch 2 will be the greatest console of all time. And I think this really boils down to, let's go back a little bit, or let's look in the present and realize the successes of the Switch 1. The Switch 1 is one of the most successful consoles of all time. I mean, when we're talking how many units it sold, I think it's in 3rd or 2nd place right now. It is undoubtedly one of the most successful commercially consoles of all time. But then I also have to look at what the Switch is. What is the Switch? And it is the definition of, let's take the best parts of Nintendo and make a modern device out of it. We have handheld Nintendo, and we have home console Nintendo. And the Switch really is the best of both worlds when it comes to that. Now, the next thing is, let's look at the library of games. And I do think when we look at the library of games, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, it's stellar. It's amazing. It's incredible. There is so many games, so many franchises, and I really do think that this plays a big role in why the Switch 2 will be the greatest console of all time. But you look at everything that the Switch 1 has to offer. Is it perfect? No. Is it the greatest console of all time? Some may argue, but I'm going to say no. But this is the very first direct sequel for a console Nintendo has ever done. Okay, you can look at the Wii U from the Wii. Yes, it is technically the successor to the Wii, but that is not a direct sequel. They said, okay, let's take the Wii, but let's switch it up. Let's try and do something new and try and add to it. It obviously didn't really work to what they planned. And again, you can look at like the 3DS to the 2DS. It's like, okay, let's pretty much just do the same thing, but we're gonna switch it up a little bit. This is the very first console with a 2 in its name, and it is the exact same shape. It is the exact same play style. It does the exact same things. It is just the fact that they are now completely adding to it. And I don't mean adding to it in the sense of, oh, let's put a little gamepad with it. I'm not saying add to it where let's add a 3D screen to it. They're adding to it in the ways that we actually want them to. The first one being power. The Switch, one of its biggest complaints throughout its entire life cycle was that this thing ran games like dog water. And I mean, it did. Like, we were struggling to get 30 frames per second on a lot of games. And when, you know, there's other consoles out there that are now pushing 120 sometimes, that's really an unfortunate scenario. But obviously, we're going to have better power when it comes to this console. We don't know specifics yet. They didn't really go into that, but we know that's going to be a thing. That's just a given. And that is something that is going to benefit, number one, us as consumers. We're going to be having a better experience playing the games, but also it's going to benefit the games. They're going to be able to be more detailed, be more layered with its visuals. They're going to be able to pop more. And I think that is a really good thing. Also, just data, having more NPCs, having, you know, more things going on within the games. This is a good thing. More power equals bigger and sometimes better. Sometimes it means worse. But let's be honest, Nintendo has a really high quality standard that they're not going to push beyond what is possible when it comes to technical boundaries. They're going to utilize it to the most, for sure. But they're not going to try and shove some Unreal Engine 5 thing into something that shouldn't have it in the first place. They know what they want to make, and they're going to make it to their highest of standard that they expect from themselves. And that's something I have to give props to Nintendo for. Their quality standard is very, very good. Something a lot of other companies can't really say. But then the other thing that the other thing that obviously is a great upgrade that they are changing is just the quality of the console. Like, how fast is it going to load? The materials of which the console's built, the plastic, you know, the Joy-Cons. All of that, it's just going to be a better feeling, a better, more built console. At least we hope. Obviously, we haven't had hands-on with this thing, so we don't know for sure. But again, it should be a given with a just newer version of a console that is already pretty good. I mean, the Switch 1 is not bad by any means, but it definitely can be better, and this console should hopefully fix a lot of those issues. Hopefully stick drift is one of them. But here's why this console as a whole will be better than the Switch 1, and why it will be the greatest console of all time. Obviously, with a new generation, with a new console, you're going to see an increase to power. You're going to see an increase to quality. But why do we buy consoles? To play games. And that is what's really going to set this console apart. The big thing here, and I've been saying it for years, is the number one thing this Switch has to do. It doesn't have to do anything else. It just has to be more powerful, and it has to be able to play Switch 1 games. It has to be backwards compatible. And that was confirmed. And the reason I say it had to be backwards compatible is because when you look at the Switch's 1 library, it is one of the most decorated, fullest, stacked libraries you can find on any console. We're talking 7 to 8 years worth of games in a generation. But here's what is like dawned upon me like those 2 years ago is when you look at the library, okay, there's new games like Mario Odyssey, like Tears of the Kingdom, like Scarlet and Violet, like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, like Splatoon 3. But what the Switch did more than any other console was port and remaster classics. When you look at Xenoblade and you realize every Xenoblade game, especially with the release now of Xenoblade Chronicles X, every Xenoblade game is on this console. When you look at Mario, a lot of Mario games, and I mean a lot, you even have the 3D All-Star thing, a lot of Mario games are on this console. When you look at Pokemon is a little bit of a downside, but when you look at Pokemon, there is Snap, there is obviously Mainline, there is remakes, there is Pokken Tournament. There's a lot of different things there. When you look at Zelda and you realize that there are new Zeldas, there are remakes of Zeldas, and there are remasters of Zeldas, you got everything there. When you look at the fact that you have Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, when you look at the fact that you have Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the Switch, when you realize you have Bayonetta 1, 2, and 3 on the Switch, when you look at the fact that you have a 2D Kirby and a 3D Kirby, when you realize you have F-Zero 99, when you realize that you have all of these franchises, you can almost go through all of Nintendo's franchises of all time and realize that they have properly set that console up to be basically, and this is the point I'm getting at, the console is basically the ultimate Nintendo console. You can look at the N64, you can look at the GameCube, you can look at the DS, you can look at the Wii. All of those consoles are missing franchises. There is not one console that has every Nintendo franchise of all time. The Switch is the closest console to that. The only franchises we're missing are either ones that are completely dead. I mean, heck, they brought back Mario and Luigi. Like, how crazy is that? They brought back a Super Mario RPG. We have Metroid on this thing. The only ones that are truly missing, I think the biggest one right now is Star Fox, because that one technically did get a Wii U release. But when we're talking like Nintendogs or like Mother or Earthbound, the same game pretty much. But like when we're talking about those really, really obscure, like basically completely dead franchises, obviously they're not there. But and not downing the quality of those games, by the way. I'm just saying how it is. Unfortunately, like I'd be shocked if we ever saw all those again, except for Star Fox. Star Fox is the only exception. But my point being, you have a console that genuinely has more games than any other Nintendo console. You have a console that has remastered more classics than any other console. You have a console that has delivered some of the highest quality new entries in those franchises ever. We're talking Odyssey, we're talking Breath of the Wild, we're talking Link, Tears of the Kingdom, we're talking Forgotten Land, we're talking so many games. When you realize that collection, and when you realize we are about to get 7 to 8 more years of that, hey, let's take what is already considered one of the greatest libraries of games of all time. And let's add 7 to 8 more years of that. We're already getting a new Prime game. Boom, perfect. We're already getting a new Mario Kart game. Boom, perfect. Who knows what else we're gonna get? Like, genuinely, who knows what else we're gonna get? And we're gonna have a whole video talking about what games we want to see on the Switch 2. Like I said, we're gonna be predicting the first year. You already know we're gonna be getting a 3D Mario game. That's just an obvious. But that is what I'm getting at, is when you look at the success of the Switch 1, when you realize how dominant the Switch 1 has been, when you realize the library of game that they have, and when you realize that the Switch 2 doesn't have no stupid gimmicks, it doesn't have any kind of trying to flip the script moment, it is just, hey, let's take the Switch 1 and make it better. And hopefully that is what this is going to be. And we're getting 7 to 8 more years of this library of games. Absolutely insane. We're talking new games. We're talking more remasters. We're talking sequels to things. Amazing. And hopefully they continue expanding the online as well. I mean, the online low-key is kind of a sleeper thing. Like, it's not the most insane thing in the world right now. But when you realize you can play N64, when you can play Game Boy, NES, Super NES, Sega games, when you realize you can play so many of those games. I mean, I think GameCube is, if GameCube and 3DS and Wii are the only ones you can't play, I do believe. That's a lot of games. That is a lot of games on one console. And here is my closing statement to this whole thing. If you really want to know why I think the Switch 2 will be the greatest console of all time, is basically very, very simple. They are going to expand on what I believe is the ultimate Nintendo console. There will not be another piece of hardware in the whole industry that has as many franchises, as many classics, as many new products as the Nintendo Switch 2. And here's the thing, I'm not just going to say they're going to do it. I'm not just going to say, oh yeah, this is a guaranteed. If Nintendo just pulls it off right, it will happen. Because the pieces are there. The pieces are there. The parts are there. They just have to make sure not to screw it up. And oh boy, it's Nintendo we're talking about. So it is possible. It is possible, but I have faith because they said it themselves. This is the Nintendo Switch 2. It is the sequel to one of the most dominant, and I'm not even just going to say sequel. It is the direct successor to one of the most dominant consoles of all time. The ball's in your court, Nintendo. What are you going to do? We're going to find out April 2nd. We're going to find April 2nd. We're going to have a video covering a whole bunch more things. We're going to have predictions, all that good stuff. But here's what I'll say before I leave. Nintendo's cooking. Nintendo's cooking. Let them cook. I'll see y'all later. Thank y'all so much for watching. See you in the next one. Johnny Moore out. Peace.